Hey guys, today we're going to be jumping into the story of Tamar. This is a really messed up, crooked, kind of sinful, dark story in the Bible. The story focuses on Judah and Tamar is one of the 5 women listed in the genealogy of Jesus, and 3 of those women are prostitutes. So we're going to take a look at her story, which is found in Genesis 38, and try and figure out what it's all about. So to set the scene, in Genesis 37, we're introduced to Jacob's family, and he actually has 12 sons, but all of them band together to try and kill the youngest son, Joseph. Now they end up just selling him to make a little bit of money, and then we hit Genesis 38, which is focused on Judah, who we know is the promised heir of the line of Jesus, but who also seemed to just head up this whole operation of selling his younger brother. All this leaves us with one question as we enter Genesis 38. How can God use such messed up people? Let's dive in. So the story starts with Judah actually leaving his family and marrying a Canaanite woman who has 3 sons, Er, Onan, and Shelah. Now, Tamar enters the story and marries the first son, Er, who God actually kills because he is so wicked. Tamar then marries the second son, Onan, who also dies because he realizes that the children aren't going to be his, so he spills the semen on his ground. This sort of scares Judah, so he tells Tamar that she has to wait to marry the youngest son. Verse 12 tells us, though, that after a long time, this still hasn't happened. So Judah has deceived Tamar. He's left her widowed and childless, and he's also part of the family that God has promised he's going to use to bring about his Messiah. So by refusing Tamar the right to carry on his family line, Judah has actually abandoned his responsibility to carry out God's plan. So Tamar takes things into her own hands. She actually disguises herself as a prostitute and then tricks Judah into sleeping with her. So still unaware of what's just happened, Judah hears that Tamar has acted as a prostitute and he gets really upset. He says that she has to be burned alive. So Tamar reveals herself. She reveals that she is conceived and that the sons are actually Judah's and the family line is continued. So Judah calls off the execution, saying in verse 12, she is more righteous than I. Now Tamar gives birth to twins, 2 sons, replacing the sons that Judah lost earlier on in the story. So not only is Judah's family line continued, but it's fully restored to what it once was. Now, what can this whole mess tell us about the character of God? Well, ultimately, this story shows us that God fulfills his promises and that he can use broken people to bring about good things. There are lots of parallels between Judah in chapter 38 and Joseph in chapter 39. Mainly the fact that Judah falls into sexual sin, whereas Joseph resists it and flees. However, even though Joseph acted honorably in his situation, he doesn't even take credit for it, but he gives credit to God for all the righteousness and redemption that flows from it. In chapter 50 of Genesis, he says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." In the same way, we can look at the broken, twisted, and evil parts of ourselves and our own lives and realize that God isn't going to abandon us in those moments. He will still fulfill his promises to be good and give us redemption. Now, there's a second truth about God in the story of Genesis 38. So the lineage of the Judean king is not only meant to remind us of the Jesus that we know from the New Testament, but the same language of Judean king is actually picked up in other books like Amos, Ezekiel, Psalms, and a couple other passages when talking about the second coming of Christ. As Christians today, we're caught in a bit of a tension where we know that Jesus has come and he has redeemed us, but we also know that he's coming again and that he's going to fulfill his plan of redemption once and for all. So the continuation of the line of Judah in Genesis 38 does not end with the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, but it's actually extended to us who are living now as we eagerly await his second coming, trusting that he will use us, like Judah, in our unfaithfulness and disobedience to fulfill his ultimate plan of redemption for the whole world. And that is Genesis 38. Thank you.